Kate Ellis stood patiently in the winding line that snaked through the sunny town square, watching the colorful bunting flutter overhead and listening to the faint clatter of festival stalls setting up in the distance. The crowd was a lively mix of familiar faces and visitors, all chatting about the day's events with the kind of relaxed excitement only a small-town festival could inspire. Despite the vibrant atmosphere, Kate felt a flutter of nervousness beneath her calm exterior. She was dressed simply, a soft cotton blouse, comfortable jeans, and well-worn sneakers, choosing to blend in rather than stand out. This was how she wanted it, to experience the festival just like anyone else, without the weight of her position looming over her. The guard stationed nearby was a young man tasked with managing the flow of guests into the event, his sharp eyes scanning the faces ahead of him with careful scrutiny. When they landed on Kate, something about her stood out. Perhaps it was the quiet dignity in the way she carried herself or the subtle assurance in her gaze. Either way, he seemed unsettled by her presence in the line. Without warning, he approached her, the edge in his voice clear as he sneered, "You don't really think you belong here, do you? People like you don't wait with the rest of us." Kate blinked, surprised by the sudden rudeness. She opened her mouth to reply, but the guard simply crossed his arms and smirked, as if daring her to prove him wrong. Around them, the chatter softened, and curious eyes began to turn, catching the unfolding interaction in a mix of disbelief and unease. The guard's words cut sharper than he realized, setting the stage for an unexpected confrontation that would ripple through the crowd. The guard's smirk deepened as a few of the people in line turned their heads, catching the sharp edge in his tone. "Come on," he said loud enough for many nearby to hear. "You think you're better than the rest of us, don't you? Just standing there, waiting like some guest of honor. You probably expect a red carpet rolled out, huh?" Kate's cheeks flushed, a wave of heat spreading across her face. She had hoped to keep a low profile today, but suddenly all eyes were on her. She forced herself to meet the guard's mocking gaze, feeling a mix of indignation and embarrassment rising inside. "I'm just waiting in line like everyone else," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady despite the tight knot forming in her chest. The guard scoffed, shaking his head as if he found her reply laughable. "Right," he said, emphasizing the word, "we all just happen to wait in line at the same place. But see, people like you. You don't wait. You get special treatment. Maybe today's not your lucky day." People around them exchanged glances. Some whispered softly, others stiffened at the unkindness, while a few smirked knowingly as if this kind of scene was typical. A woman 2 people behind Kate gave her a quick, sympathetic smile, but no one stepped forward to challenge the guard. Kate looked down at her hands clasped in front of her and wished she could disappear into the colorful carpet of confetti at her feet. The festive atmosphere now felt heavy and oppressive, as if the warmth of the day had dimmed under the guard's cold words. She considered stepping out of line quietly, to avoid further attention, but her feet stayed planted. "Hey, you really gonna stand there and say that?" the guard said, stepping closer, voice dripping with condescension. "All eyes are on you now. Maybe you should take your place somewhere else, away from the rest of us." His words stung more than any insult Kate had heard in a long time. She could feel the weight of the crowd pressing in, curious eyes scanning her from head to toe, judging. A few people nudged each other, some snickering quietly, others shaking their heads in disbelief that anyone could be so rude at a community event meant to bring people together. Kate's throat tightened. Her first instinct was to excuse herself politely and slip away before the situation escalated, but the guard blocked her path. "Where do you think you're going?" he demanded, voice raised now, drawing even more attention. The woman behind her stepped forward slightly, her hands clenched tightly at her sides as if ready to speak up, but she hesitated. The crowd buzzed with tension, a low murmur spreading through the onlookers. Kate could see the conflicting emotions in their faces, some discomfort, some judgment, and some just eager entertainment at the unfolding drama. Feeling trapped, Kate forced herself to breathe slowly, to steady the racing of her heart. "I'm sorry if I caused any trouble," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I just want to enjoy the festival like everyone else." The guard laughed, the sound sharp and unpleasant. "Trouble? You are the trouble. Acting like you belong here just because you think you're special." Suddenly, a small boy nearby tugged at his mother's sleeve and looked up at Kate with wide eyes. The mother quickly hushed him, but the child's innocent glance reached out to Kate like a lifeline amidst the harshness. That brief moment sparked something inside her, not just frustration, but a fierce determination not to be belittled. Yet the guard was relentless. "Maybe next time, you'll think twice before pretending," he sneered. "This is real life, not some fancy gala where folks bow down to you." Kate's face burned hotter now, and she felt tears welling up unbidden. The crowd's laughter and whispers felt like cold rain drenched over her back. A few people passed judgment with their stares, their expressions narrowing as if deciding she had somehow overstepped. Other faces were strangely distant, as if they were watching something surreal rather than a respectful exchange. The woman behind Kate finally stepped forward and spoke quietly but firmly, "He's gone too far. You don't deserve this." The guard glared at her then, the edges of his bravado faltering for a brief second. He jerked his thumb toward the exit and said curtly, "If you're so desperate to be someone else, maybe you should just leave." Kate glanced around at the crowd, then down at her feet once more. The urge to run, to escape the humiliation growing like a shadow inside her, was overwhelming. She could feel her composure slipping, the few remaining strands of confidence fraying under the weight of public scrutiny. Just as she considered stepping out of the line, a tall figure emerged from the nearby gathering, moving with a purposeful stride that immediately silenced the murmurs around them. The mayor of the town, Jonathan Marshall, arrived, his presence commanding attention. The guard straightened, clearly recognizing the mayor and quickly stepping aside. Mayor Marshall's eyes met Kate's, his expression softening. Without hesitation, he addressed the guard in a clear voice that cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" The guard shifted nervously but stammered a reply. She was just saying she belonged in the line like everyone else, sir." The mayor raised a hand, holding the guard's words at bay, then turned to Kate with a warm smile. "Kate, you're standing in the right place. And the rest of us are lucky you're here." Kate's breath caught. The mayor's words floated over the crowd like a gentle tide, sweeping away the whispers and harsh glances. A ripple of surprise spread through those watching, faces turning toward her with renewed curiosity. The mayor continued, voice steady and proud. "Please come with me, First Lady." The words hung in the air, both a title and a quiet public acknowledgement that suddenly shifted the entire atmosphere. The guard, once cocky and unyielding, now looked awkward and uncertain. The crowd, sensing the change, fell into a respectful hush. Some exchanged looks of astonishment, others silently chastising the guard through their eyes. Kate's eyes widened, her earlier shame slowly melting into disbelief. She straightened, surprise giving way to quiet dignity as the mayor extended his arm toward her, guiding her away from the line and into a more welcoming space within the festival. The crowd parted instinctively, eyes still fixed on Kate as she walked alongside the mayor, her simple attire standing strongly next to the unexpected and profound honor now bestowed on her. The guard lingered behind, his pride deflated, left to absorb the consequences of his harsh judgment. As they moved, Kate felt the warmth of newfound respect encircle her, tempered by a surge of humility and resolve. She realized this moment, however difficult, was becoming a turning point, not only for her but for everyone watching. People were learning, witnessing the power of true grace and the importance of seeing beyond assumptions. And in the midst of the festival's lively chatter and the gentle rustle of autumn leaves, the unexpected encounter was settling into the history of the town, a small but significant reminder of dignity, community, and the unexpected strength found in standing one's ground. Mayor Jonathan Marshall led Kate through the festival grounds with a quiet confidence that seemed to command both respect and attention wherever they passed. The crowd's murmurs began to swell into a soft hum of curiosity and admiration. People exchanged surprised glances, some whispering, others smiling discreetly as if recognizing a piece of the larger picture they hadn't seen before. Kate felt the weight of the mayor's arm gently resting near hers, a subtle but unmistakable signal of support. She lifted her chin slightly, meeting the gazes around her with a calm and steady grace that surprised even herself. The tension that had clung to her like a second skin began to loosen in the warmth of the mayor's presence. As they arrived at a specially designated area near the festival's main stage, Jonathan gestured toward a cluster of inviting chairs arranged neatly alongside the platform. "Please, Kate," he said warmly, "this is where you belong today." Kate hesitated only briefly. She caught the glances of some longtime residents, people she had quietly worked alongside in local initiatives, people who knew the charitable booths she'd helped organize, though often without fanfare. Their eyes held newfound respect. Just then, the festival organizer, a tall woman in a floral dress named Rebecca, approached briskly, a clipboard clutched in one hand. "Mayor, we were just discussing the program," she said, nodding respectfully toward Kate. "We'd love for Mrs. Ellis to say a few words about the community projects she's helped with." Kate blinked in surprise but quickly nodded. A microphone was handed to her, its cord trailing from the stage to a mixer booth manned by teenagers hastily adjusting sound levels. She stepped up on the stage, the soft hum of the crowd settling into an expectant silence. For a beat, her nerves threatened to take hold. But remembering the boy who had looked up at her earlier with those wide, trusting eyes, she took a breath and began. "Thank you for welcoming me," Kate began, her voice steady though warm. "I've always believed that community is built on the connections we make, day by day, with kindness and dedication to one another." She glanced briefly at Jonathan, who offered an encouraging nod. "The charity booth today is just one part of that effort, but it's a symbol of what we can accomplish when we work together." Her words were simple, but they carried an authentic sincerity that resonated deeply with the crowd. Smiles bloomed across faces, from families with children to longtime neighbors. She spoke with a natural ease, a down-to-earth quality that broke through any lingering doubts the guard's earlier mockery had cast. Suddenly, from the edge of the crowd, a familiar voice cut through. It was the guard, now standing with his arms crossed but looking decidedly less certain, his bravado replaced by hesitation. "Wait a minute," he called out, voice wavering slightly but still loud enough to carry. "How do you know all this stuff? I thought you'd be out of your depth." Kate paused, the question hanging in the air before she answered calmly. "Because I'm part of this community, just like everyone here. I've been volunteering, organizing, and listening for years. That's how I know." Her gaze swept over the crowd, signaling that she wasn't just ready to speak, she was ready to be heard. A few people chuckled softly, the mood shifting from daunting scrutiny to an atmosphere of appreciation. The guard's discomfort deepened. He knew he had misjudged her, though pride clenched his jaw tighter than he liked. The mayor then stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Kate's shoulder. "Kate has shown remarkable dedication without ever asking for recognition," Jonathan said firmly. "We all owe her gratitude." Whispers of agreement floated through the crowd, a ripple of applause growing and washing over Kate like a gentle tide. The guard shifted in place, realizing the tide had turned. After Kate finished speaking, several members of the crowd approached to thank her, sharing brief stories of their own involvement or expressing renewed inspiration. A young woman who had been standing nearby earlier, the one who offered her a sympathetic smile, now looked at Kate with genuine admiration. "You're really making a difference," she said quietly. "And you don't have to hide who you are to do it." Kate smiled softly, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the afternoon sun. She looked toward the guard, who lingered awkwardly near the back of the crowd, caught between embarrassment and a growing respect. Later, as the festival continued with music and laughter filling the air, the guard found a quiet moment to approach Kate. His usual arrogance had drained away, replaced by something more sincere. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, avoiding direct eye contact at first. "I didn't mean to judge you like that. I guess I just didn't know." Kate studied him for a moment, surprised but wanting to offer a chance at understanding. "It's not easy to see the whole story from a quick glance," she said gently. "What matters is what we do once we do see." He nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing. "You're impressive. I didn't realize." Kate offered a small laugh. "Thank you. And sometimes, people just need to be reminded." The guard smiled faintly, a touch of humility softening his features before he stepped back into the flow of the festival. Kate turned her gaze back to the mayor, who gave her a proud nod. That evening, as twilight settled over the town and the festival lights twinkled against the deepening sky, Kate reflected on the unexpected turn of events. The moment when she was most vulnerable had become the moment she was most seen, not for appearances or titles, but for who she truly was. The crowd's cheers and the warmth of familiar faces surrounded her, a reminder that authenticity and steadfastness could change hearts. In that crowd, where she had once felt so out of place, Kate found her voice, and with it, the power to reshape assumptions. The guard's earlier mockery now felt like a faded shadow, cast aside by the brightness of truth and community spirit. And as the festival carried on into the night, Kate stood quietly amid the laughter and music, a subtle but profound presence, both humbled and quietly victorious. After the applause died down and the crowd slowly dispersed into laughter, chatter, and the soft rustling of festival tents, Kate Ellis stood near the edge of the main square, catching her breath and soaking in the gentle hum of the evening. The sun had dipped low, casting warm hues across the historic buildings that surrounded the town plaza. She looked down at her simple attire, the soft cotton blouse and jeans, and smiled quietly to herself. It was a contrast to the formality that many expected of someone called the First Lady, but it was a choice she made every time she stepped into the community. Jonathan, the mayor, joined her, his expression thoughtful but tender. "You handled that beautifully," he said softly. "Pride, humility, and strength all at once." Kate exhaled, the tension of the day finally releasing from her shoulders. "I never wanted anyone to know who I was before today. I wanted to be part of the crowd, not above it." He nodded, understanding more than just her words. "And you were, until the guard decided to turn it into something else." Kate glanced out into the gathering dusk, recalling the guard's harsh words and the sting of judgment. "I wanted people to see me simply as someone who cares, who's worked alongside them, not as the mayor's wife." Jonathan smiled. "Well, today they saw both, and the better parts of you." For most in town, Kate Ellis was a presence both respected and quietly admired, even if few fully grasped the full extent of her contributions. Beneath the surface of the official title lay years of volunteer work, grassroots leadership, and a steady dedication to causes that mattered to the townspeople, from supporting local food banks to organizing literacy programs for children. Kate had lived here with Jonathan, away from the limelight, weaving herself into the fabric of community life rather than sitting atop it. Her choice to dress simply wasn't just about comfort, it was about respect for everyone she met. She didn't want to highlight privilege or distance. Kate believed leadership was about service, not status. Jonathan leaned closer, his voice low but warm. "I remember when you first got involved with the town's outreach programs. You showed up in the smallest way, always quietly getting things done." Kate's eyes softened. "I wanted to make sure I understood the needs before speaking up or asking for attention. Sometimes that means standing in line with everyone else." The memory of the festival's unfolding drama was still vivid, the guard who doubted her, the crowd's shifting gaze, the mayor's public recognition, and now she saw the entire sequence as a testament to how easily perception could shape reality. "People see what they want to see," Kate said quietly. "That's why it's important not to let someone else's judgment define who you are." Jonathan's smile deepened, proud and affectionate. "You've always been the town's quiet heart, Kate." Today only made that clearer. As the night wrapped the festival in a canopy of stars, Kate walked slowly through the town square, greeting vendors packing up their stalls and neighbors exchanging cheerful goodbyes. People stopped her to thank her for her words, their smiles genuine and open. She recognized many of the faces, neighbors who had once seen her simply as the mayor's wife, now looking at her through a new lens. The simplicity and authenticity she embodied resonated with them, breaking through any barriers the title might have built. Later, as she and Jonathan prepared to leave the festival, she paused by one of the charity booths, the very one she had helped organize. The handmade signs, the baskets of food, the smiling volunteers all reminded her why she had insisted on attending incognito. Jonathan caught her eye and nodded toward the booth. "You've made a difference, Kate. More than you realize." She smiled softly. It was worth standing in line for today. The quiet humility that guided her life was now a quiet strength, a subtle reminder that true leadership often happens away from center stage. As they walked away hand in hand beneath the twinkling festival lights, Kate felt a deep sense of peace. The choice to remain herself, plain, unembellished, and connected, was the truest gift she could offer both her community and herself. The night was ending, but the ripple effects of that afternoon were only beginning, transforming perceptions, fostering respect, and reminding everyone gathered that leadership wears many faces, often the simplest and most sincere ones. In the fading glow of the festival, Kate Ellis wasn't just the First Lady by title. She was the First Lady of their hearts, quiet, steady, and profoundly real. In the days following the festival, the townspeople couldn't stop talking, not about the usual celebrations or the biggest sales at the vendor booths, but about the unexpected moment when Kate Ellis, the mayor's wife, stood in line just like everyone else and showed everyone what humility and leadership truly looked like. The guard, whose name was Marcus, felt the weight of more than just his supervisor's disappointed glare. After the mayor's quiet but firm reprimand, which made it clear that respect and professionalism weren't optional for those tasked with serving the community, Marcus found himself reflecting more deeply than ever before. Word got around quickly after the incident, and the stories that had once cast Kate as an outsider in the line now portrayed her as an example of grace. Marcus had watched as the quiet, composed woman on that festival afternoon had gracefully accepted the guard's mockery, only to rise above it with unshakable dignity when the mayor stepped in. He called his supervisor to thank her, partly to apologize and partly seeking advice on how to improve himself. It was unusual for Marcus. His usual bravado was tempered now by genuine humility. The reprimand had not only been about protocol but about respect toward fellow human beings, something Marcus had overlooked. Marcus talked openly about his feelings of regret and embarrassment to his fellow staff members. The conversation turned into one about how assumptions and snap judgments can blind people to the quiet strength in others. Slowly, the walls of judgment that had divided the townspeople softened. Meanwhile, Kate returned to her usual routine, but with the glow of quiet vindication warming her days. She continued her volunteer work in community projects, but now more people approached her with appreciation and kindness. Small acts began multiplying, neighbors invited her to coffee, youth groups asked for her guidance, and local businesses reached out to collaborate on new initiatives. One afternoon, Jonathan met her at home with a warm smile and news that made his eyes shine. "Marcus came to me this morning. He's eager to take part in some of the volunteer programs you lead. Said he wants to learn what true respect really means from someone he's come to admire." Kate laughed softly, touched by the gesture. "That's the kind of ripple that really changes things." Jonathan nodded. "You've inspired more than just the crowd at the festival." Kate looked down at her hands, remembering the moment she felt trapped in the guard's scorn. It's funny how one moment can feel like the end of the world, and then become the start of something new. The town's mayor made sure Marcus was offered additional training on community relations, and Marcus stepped into his role with renewed purpose. He no longer saw his work as simply enforcing rules but as connecting with the people whose experiences shaped the town's identity. His transformation wasn't just about him but about setting a new tone for everyone in a position of responsibility. Kate's story circulated further, reaching neighboring towns, spreading the message that humility and genuine connection can break barriers and bring communities closer together. One Saturday, the local newspaper ran a feature article highlighting her years of volunteer work, her decision to dress simply, and her steadfast belief that leadership is a role of service, not status. The article ended with a candid quote from Kate: "True leadership is about joining hands, not standing apart." For Kate, the festival incident was never about proving anyone wrong. It was about reminding herself and those around her that sincerity and kindness hold their own quiet power. At the next town meeting, Jonathan publicly thanked Kate for her dedication and invited the townspeople to celebrate the spirit of community she embodied. Applause filled the room as she smiled, feeling deeply connected to the people who had once just been distant faces in a crowd. The guard, now a changed man, often caught warm greetings and nods from those who once whispered behind Kate's back, a small but meaningful sign that the town had grown too. Kate felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not from recognition or titles, but from knowing that respect earned through humility could outshine any assumption or prejudice. As she and Jonathan stood together, watching the sun set over the town, Kate turned to the camera of the community storytelling channel whose crew had quietly followed her journey. "Sometimes," she said, "all it takes is for someone to stand quietly in line, with patience, with respect, to remind everyone that we're all just people wanting to belong." She smiled gently, her eyes reflecting the calm strength that had carried her through the day. "What would you do if you were in my shoes? If you were Marcus's? Or the neighbor watching from the crowd? Share your thoughts with us in the comments, we'd love to hear your story." Familiar voices from the channel's team chimed in to close the story. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, and hit the bell to keep up with more heartfelt stories of kindness and courage. See you in our next story. And with that, the festival's warmth lingered a little longer in the hearts of those who had witnessed it, reminding everyone that true grace is found not in titles, but in standing together, from the front of the line or anywhere else, with humility and love.